Hi everybody, it's Robbie from Southern California. Today I'm going to talk about papayas, how you can grow them from seed. Yes, you could do cuttings in different ways that way, but let's just talk about seeds today. Why? Because all the papayas that you see here in all my garden tours, and I talk about all the time, including this monster that is still in the original flower pot, were all grown, there it is, by seed. Directly from seeds, and not necessarily did I grow them trying to grow them. In fact, it was the opposite. I was trying to get rid of them. The original papayas came from the grocery store, and Gary would love buying them, and I would compost them is what I did. Here, look at this. Look at how many there are on this one big tree. I know they're not trees, but let's just call them trees for now. I do wrap some tulle around them because things will climb up and try to get the papayas, but if I wrap tulle, usually a little better than this, around the trunks, it will stop the squirrels and different things from climbing on it because they don't like the feel of the tulle. T-U-L-L-E. I'll put a link underneath where I get it. It's dirt cheap. It's like $10 for a bolt. That's 40 yards, 54 inches wide. You'll use it forever. Anyways, this particular one has got multi-branches now, as you could see. And I've got a branch there. I've got a branch there. I've got a new one coming out here. And then, of course, on the top, so it's branching everywhere and growing fruit everywhere. As I was saying, all of these here grew from seed. They were in a flower pot in my garden, which is right over there, the bird garden. And what happened was they were coming up in my compost in place. How I dump everything, grow everything. And boy, the way I compost, cold composting, just letting everything rot. And that's how I grow all my vegetables and everything. Well, papayas love that too. The papaya plant wants to grow in rotting matter. Think about it. Big fruit falling from the tree, and underneath, new papayas will grow in the rotting fruit. It's massive fruit, the Mexican papayas. So I would drag them out here, pots and all, because I didn't have the heart to compost them, and the strongest would survive. And that's just the way it is. And yeah, I dragged them out again. And I'll show you in a minute. I've got about 100 of them growing right now. If you're in the right zone, we're in 10A. They don't like it super cold in the winter, so they will lose their leaves if we get a freeze, but it hasn't killed any of the papaya plants yet. They're really easy to grow, and they're easy to get fruit from as long as you do a couple little things. Papaya plants are heavy feeders. If you're growing a vegetable garden, it's just like your squash, your zucchini, your watermelons, your cucumbers. They're heavy feeders, which mean they need a lot of matter in their soil to grow. That's all. Now, you could buy plant food if you want. I don't. There's nothing wrong with buying plant food. You could do it that way, or you could do what I did here, which is there's a container there, there's a container there, there's another one there, and I'm probably going to put another one in between. And there is another one there. Each papaya, let's just say tree, has its own container next to it. Because what I do is I throw leaf matter, rotting fruit, just like you would do kitchen scraps, in those totes, and it could be a flower pot, in the containers. That one's a cut barrel that Gary found, I think, on the side of the road, and he cut it, and it's buried halfway, and there's the other half is somewhere else. And I water that. I water all my totes as if I've got a plant in it, whether it's growing anything or not. That one's growing a whole bunch of squash seeds because I threw a ton of squash seeds in there. But as it leaches out, there's holes. There's always holes in every container you're going to throw things in and water. It drains out and it creates a constant food source for the papayas. That's all, a constant food source. And they absolutely love it. Putting totes there and throwing all kinds of leaf matter. It could be collard and kale and old tomato plants. Everything was going into these totes. And notice right now I only have a tomato plant growing in here. I don't always grow in them, but I always have to keep that there for the papayas. I water them, see the holes? They leach out, they water and feed each and every papaya. And that's all you have to do is feed them. Now let's walk over and I'll show you. I've got 100 papayas now growing. And this is what I want you to see why and how I ended up with so many. I compost in place, and this is a 2 system. I have a video on this. This is what's growing my squash right now. And in here, I continue to throw kitchen scraps or whatever I want if I remember. See all the plants in here? See, there's eggshells in there? See all this? Every single one in there that's about 2 to 3 inches tall. They are so desperately trying to get out of here, and I guess I'll be taking them out, are papaya plants. They are growing in the rotting matter. And there's a lid on it. So see, there's been a lid. I lift the lid. There's different ways of doing this. I'm going to have a lot more videos on that. I lift the lid, I water in there, close it up, and lo and behold, I compost it in there from the kitchen, some papaya seeds, and I now have over 100 trees in that tote. It stayed warm even though we've been cold at night. It's happy in there, and there's no doubt, you can see I didn't plant that. They're just coming up in the compost that I threw in there. That's how easy it is to grow. So you would want to take a good papaya from the grocery store. Now, if the papaya that you bought from the grocery store came from another country, and if it got irradiated, say we're trying to kill, let's say, insects or something, or preserve the fruit, then the seeds may not grow. The odds are they won't, but it might be worth trying. If it's a local fruit within the United States and they didn't bother doing anything to it, then you should be good to go. You take all those seeds, you got some compost in your yard or a flower pot, throw part of the fruit in everything. Eat your fruit, but save some of it, mash it in there, put the skin in there, and maybe cover it with another flower pot. So plant it, all the seeds in a flower pot. Then you can cover it with something so it stays warm. Put it outside if you want or in a windowsill, and you should end up with a ton of baby papaya plants growing, and you can separate them very gently with a spoon. Go through there, separate them, plant them later in separate pots, and keep them well watered. Don't let them dry out. And that's all there is to growing papayas, and that's where we got all of ours all over the property. We've got them in the front yard. Gary's got them in his garden. I've got them in my garden. I've got them where I just showed you. Every place has got papayas, and they all came up without us even trying, coming up in our breaking down compost in place, and that's how we ended up growing papaya. So I hope I gave you some ideas on how to grow papaya seeds. It's a lot of fun. It's worth trying, and who knows, you might grow so many you'll be giving to all your friends and family. Get them in a nice area. They take off right in the beginning, right away. They grow very, very quickly. And then make sure you put something near them so you can either compost in place next to them so they get constant food source, or feed them, keep them well watered, and you should be growing papaya on your property too. With that, have a wonderful, wonderful day. And don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye, everybody.